show you this bit of reference. You can see it's got some great stuff. It's got a cow that's trotting. It's got a lion that's walking. You can see from different angles. It's fantastic. So what am I looking for when I'm watching this bit of reference? If I'm looking for cycles, I am. It doesn't let me scrub. So what I'm looking for is the oscillations of the body, and because if I get those oscillations, I can understand the whole piece, the whole movement of the character. And say that you see the body's going up and down, chest is going up and down, and this is what I've talked about in my blog before, which is basically spine gates, and it's a way to basically break down very, very quickly like how objects move. And it almost becomes too easy sometimes. Like when you look at things like say a warp cycle here, you can see all these hidden kind of clues that are going on in your animation. So look at this Y curve here. This is just showing the oscillation of the chest going up and up and down. And reference will have little subtle variations in it, but in terms of making a cycle, we can extract and take really, really good knowledge from this. So you can see just by looking at this Y curve that this is the chest. So the chest got pushed up in the air and it's been held up in the air through muscles and through just the arm being locked. But then the chest starts to fall to the ground. And you have to ask yourself, well, like rather than thinking about like where the foot's going to be and everything, and approaching it again from like the leaf rather than the trunk, this is the trunk. So we find as we animate, if we can look at the curve, you go, for this curve to start bottoming out and start slowing down, it must have had contact with something. So it shows you that on this frame or that frame, probably even a few frames earlier, the foot must have contact to the ground, enough time for that arm to lock in place to start slowing the chest down. And that's a super important thing. So you can lay this out and just go, cool, a foot lands here, a foot lands here, a foot takes off, like here or something like that. Like it's really, really that simple. And when you go back to this reference that we're looking at, all that information is there, and you can use that trunk to work out the tree later. So when we, so moving on to how we'd want to set up a certain, an actual shot of, say, like a dynamic shot, right? Here's a shot that I specifically chose for the fact that the reference is a bit compromised. It's got definitely a slow motion kind of feel to it. It's got frames in it that are like are weird and like doubled up frames here, and it's pixelated and it gets cropped. This is like there's good reference, there's bad reference, but generally you're not going to be able to find something that's perfect for you. This may be the perfect action, but it's not the perfect set up and reference. So excuse me. So what we want to do is we want to approach this with all the knowledge of physics and understanding of mechanics that we have. And so let's just go through and just do some like straight up kind of like what we can see as facts rather than posing or anything like that. We just go, okay, the line's not moving forward hardly at all. It's moving forward a little bit. And then when you can see it lifts its back leg, it's off the ground, but it doesn't actually push at this point. And then it's still kind of, it's almost stopped in space here now. And then those legs are coming forward, and then it's not moving forward yet. And then those legs hit the ground, and boom, it starts to accelerate. And then again, when the legs come through, it starts to accelerate again. So how do we set ourselves up in a scene to make this make sense? So basically, we can take what we just talked about as our Z curve, without even looking at, I'll give it a start and an end. So over here, so the line gets to here. So this curve is describing generally what's happening. It was slow at the start and sped up, but it doesn't describe the full story of what happened. And basically what I think people do when they look at reference is they don't take into account this curve enough. Like this is your base, this is your trunk, as well as that Y curve, this is the center of gravity is so important. So center of gravity really is a trunk, but in terms of the oscillation of the cycles, the Y curve is that. So there's a few trunks. So what we want to do is I want to look at a few kind of ideas here. So if this curve is representing my line starting off, it was starting off really, really slowly, and at some point it accelerated. So there must be a point on this curve where the curve starts to accelerate, right? That, and pushes off, boom, it's accelerating. What people tend to do though is they seem to sort of like want to, like when the character hits the ground, they want to slow that curve down, and that doesn't make any sense. It's like a trolley, like you're pushing along a supermarket. You can give a big push, and then it takes a while for that trolley to slow down if you don't keep pushing at it. But if you like pushing a trolley along, and every half second you just give it another shove, it wouldn't have time to slow down. So what this curve is actually going to be is that if it accelerates up to there, it's generally going to just keep going in that speed, and then the same thing is later. It's going to happen again. It's going to push up again. So now the speed of that curve is getting faster and faster and faster. So until it gets to the speed of, say, the gallop speed, this is maybe predetermined by the cycle that you've set up, say the cycle we're talking about before. Like we can chuck that in and go, cool, this is actually the speed I need to get to. So these are the certain acceleration points in my curve. And this is going to help you basically have the correct base for your animation and your reference to hinge off. And it's super important. And this is without even having like the right camera setup or anything like that. And that's a really sort of segue to that, is that if you're setting yourself up, try to set up the scene as best you can to what you see the reference to be. Like if it's a character going down a hill and you don't have the hill in your scene, the mechanics are going to be completely different. So make sure that you set up your scene as quickly as well as possible. And if you have the ability, get into a tracking software and literally track the camera and use it in your Maya scene. And it will help you, basically lock down your reference onto your character that much better. Super, super important. And what I'm going to leave reference kind of there at the moment, because it's just we're getting a bit on time. And there's one more thing I want to talk about, which is freeform animation, and it's something that I'm super, super passionate about. These poses that I did for studying this animation, which is this guy jumping up in the air. This is animation that took about 2 hours to do, and it's not the most amazing bit of animation, but it's animation that's moving, doing its thing. But these poses that I did took me around 15 minutes each to do. So that's half an hour. That's a quarter of the time that I spent doing that whole piece, doing like 2 poses. And it's because I really wanted to get it right. And it's the same thing as noodling tangents. I'm just getting in there. I'm just trying to make sure it looks good from every single angle and stuff like that. But I haven't described any movement. Like this is a shot here now that you could almost get approved now. It could be used somewhere. But if I did 8 poses, then I'm never going to get the feeling and the flow of that movement done. It's a really important thing to think about when you're animating. It's just like, think about how you would approach it. And so I think it's really good to do poses, but it's just not the fastest way to get something done in terms of being quick. So, and in terms of freeform. So what I want to do is a quick demonstration of where and how I would go about the freeform animation. What I like to do is I like to do a head pass first, which is just enough to sort of give me some detail of what the intention of my character is doing, and off he goes around there. And I can do little things here. Go, oh, that looks pretty boring. So what I'm going to do is quickly go into my curve editor, and I'm going to add a bit of life to it by doing a few stop-start kind of bird-like movements. And this is going to help my animation immediately. Oh, he saw something and he wants to go and chase it. So pretty straightforward little bit of animation. But now what I want to do is very, very quickly, I want to just get some animation locked in. So, okay, so he's seeing it. I'm going to lock in that he goes down a little bit. He's looking as it goes past, and then I'm going to squash down to the ground or something like that, and then I'm going to hold that for just a little moment as I pivot over, and then I'm going to pop up into the air and try to try to catch the thing. And then I'm going to land, and I'm always looking from the top view because it gives you a good idea of where your poses should go. And then he lands somewhere over here. And so, oh, there he goes like that. So let's look at this horrific bit of animation and see what we've done. Yay, he's done his thing. So looks pretty weird and silly at the moment, but it's got the general ideas of what I want to do. And I will do something very, very quickly now. Is just basically, I want to set up my curves properly so I don't have any kind of weird issues going on. So I'm just going to smooth out this stuff to basically give a clean extra workflow. What I'll do is I'll just bring in like a sphere. I'm going to go in and grab Morgan Loomis's gravity here, and then to find out where he's going to fall down, which is somewhere around here. And I take that Y curve that I've got and I look at it in combination here, and I go, cool, all right, that's there. The guy should land, oops, like that. And now we've got something immediately that has physics built into it. I do a lot of my work inside the graph editor. That's a sort of a thing that I use, and a lot of tools to sort of quickly add keyframes, do little things like that. Some great little A-tools scripts to sort of bump keys around. Cool. So now I've got something that is working in kind of the real world space. So let's go through and just quickly clean up a few ideas here. You can go, it's probably happening too quick, so I can slow it down like that. The body needs to rock before it goes up in the air, so let's get a curve like that. So it jumps up in the air, and then it's all working with center of gravity, and then I don't want to land on the face like that. That's a silly thing. I want to land with my bum coming down, and then when I hit the ground, I make sure there's a moment where I'm going to roll forward, and I can roll forward onto my bum here. Onto my thing here. And you see I'm not even worrying about the legs as well. It's legs are kind of irrelevant, like I said, because with that Y curve, once you can go and analyze when that Y curve is coming to a slow, that's where the leg should be to slow that down. So just basically try to get this working as good as you can. Looks like it needs to go a little lower. And that's it. And that's the start of my freeform kind of animation. And we can get in there and just keep analyzing this curve to do it right. There's a few things going on, which I can immediately see that there's a few walls that it's hitting. So it jumps up in the air. And it's not actually too bad when you look at it from this angle. But sometimes you'll find things like the curve, because where you've keyed it, will be like this or something like that. And it has a certain wobble to it, maybe it goes back like this and then moves sideways really quickly. So the easy thing to do is like same thing with like a ball. If you throw a ball, it doesn't wobble in the air. So it's going to, like, ballistics theory will know exactly where that ball's going. That's why they have those tennis things with the analyzing where things would have landed, what it would have landed. And so you can take that idea by going, cool, okay, well, this curve should be straight between these two things. They should be going straight to that thing once it jumps. So I can just go on through. I can go and delete those keys, and now it's going to be jumping very, very easily from side to side, and I've got rid of that issue. And that's just, again, just applying sort of general physics to your bit of animation. You can see here, like, I want maybe to turn a bit more with the body, so I can start to initiate that turn a little earlier. And it's just, again, just having that Y curve set up to be to help you. And I always animate from the top when I'm setting the stuff up, because it just helps you see your animation. You can see that the hips are moving over to the side there. Maybe if I wanted to pivot off those hips, I would have to keep those hips in the same direction. So I can use my trajectories here to bring back those hips to that location. So now it's sort of pivoting off those hips a bit more. goes off. And so yeah, there's a few things to look at here. There's definitely now, like, because I've drifted those hips, I've got to make sure that my curve starts going backwards a little bit earlier as well. And then, yeah, there we go. Cool. And that's the start of the animation. That's how you can do a bit of animation super quickly. I think this X here, let's just get it over. So it looks like when it hits the ground is when it should be stopping its translation over. So let's just continue that curve. Boom. Let's get this other one as well. So it's still in the air here. So let's make sure that curve goes out there. Just make it like that. Sometimes these curves as well, the auto tangent is too easy. Like it's just got too much weight. So I like to sort of make these curves a little bit more linear, like that. Just give them a little bit less ease, and that will help your the flow of your animation a bit better, because nothing really slows down that much in the air. It's like a ball; it doesn't really slow down, like unless it's a golf ball that travels hundreds and hundreds of feet. Yeah, so that's the core of my thing. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll just open it up to Eddie now for any questions or anything you want me to go over. And yeah, but thanks, it's been great.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'll throw a few questions your way. Just on that last point, so you keep the leg on screen, you don't hide them at all? They kind of help you as a guide?
Yeah, I do. Like, I think I've just trained my brain not to see them. It's one of those things that when I show supervisors or other people my work, sometimes they go, "Oh, what is that?" and they throws off their eye a little bit. So I suppose I can get used to it, so I see past it. But you can just hide them depending what rig you've got, and just and not make them available. So yeah, it's up to you really. But I will preface that and say that some people do find it very strange. So if you're going to do it, I would hide the legs initially, or at least tell people that you're doing it. Because for me, like, I can take the Abbott animation super like, I feel far with that full body control, and then putting the legs is kind of like, oh, I have to go do the legs now. And like, and you just do like half an hour pass of putting the legs where they need to be, based off all those oscillations and gravity and everything like that. So yeah.
No, that was great. Thanks for that. That was yeah, some really informative stuff, especially the gravity stuff. I think that's you can't, like you said, you can't argue with real life gravity. Gravity is,
yeah, it's been worked out. People know it. you know it through like through osmosis and just like living in this world, but also scientifically we know it very, very well. So it's a super important thing to include into your workflow.
Yeah. All right. Let me throw a few questions your way that are all flooding in. I'll start from the beginning. Ankit asks, I would love to know how you keep the whole body connected and feeling so organic, and your thought process while doing this. I guess you kind of went over that, but I'm guessing like the connection through the body and including the head as well. Just getting kind of that spine shapes and things like that to not.
Yeah, I think it's a super difficult thing to do, but it's I think the way that I'm describing, having like working from the core out will give you that, and basically approaching everything as kind of I guess as a layer. I'll show you. There's a thing that I did for I've started to do quite a lot, is that once I've got my physics base set down, I'll go through and put in a couple of key poses into this piece. So I'll literally go through and just like basically like plug out what the poses I think should do, and like literally these type of poses that I've got over here, like basically set these up and to make the piece more dynamic and more interesting. And basically it allows you to sort of still keep in contact with your center of gravity, but work within like a more aesthetic kind of look. So I think that's an important thing. But honestly, I use my tool set, this bake tool that John Torello wrote, and it's absolutely incredible. I always talk about it, and everybody has their own little world space toolkit, and I'll just say just either get one or use this one. It's insane. It has things like creating average spaces, which helps you animate between two objects. So like say like this chest, and let's just do something like these two objects. I can make an average space between this guy, and basically what this is going to do is going to give me a little controller that I can, I haven't got a key on that one, so there we go. So now those two objects are tied into each other. They are now connected, and I can basically make my animation more solid for that reason. It's just basically like at any point that I'm doing world space where say the brick has been moved somewhere else, I can immediately go and make a new brick with that tool set. Made a mess there.
Oh yeah, that sounds great. And then, so once you get that initial timing and feeling kind of blocked out, is that when you add in your key poses? When does that come in? Like when you start?
Yeah, it does. Like it's sort of and it depends on the pieces. Like say if I'm using walk cycle, we'll have like a that all kind of blocked in anyway. Like so the walk is kind of the base, whereas something like this is it's very much a kind of like I've illustrated here. It's very much a freeform kind of approach. And what I'll do is I start to sort of break things down a little bit. Like we'll put poses in here, but it's essentially doing things like, okay, like I will, let's just get rid of this, keep getting rid of this guy. Delete control, delete constraints. So I'll bake these guys out, and I've shown that on my like 5-step method is basically just completely working on the body first, and then worrying about the legs later. So yeah, it's essentially it is just posing things out after you've got your general freeform approach kind of sorted, and then going from there. Like I think it's probably a bigger question that I'd need more time to spend on it. I couldn't probably sum it up. There's too many workflow kind of ideas there to throw at you in one less. So maybe we can do another version of that later. Because I want to talk about freeform animation as much as I can. Yeah.
And people were asking about freeform animation. So when you freeform animate, how do you know how far is too far? Like when you're not going off the rails.
In terms of like say a pose, or in terms of just
I think with the idea. So with the pose, that would be sticking on model. But I guess with the idea, I mentioned it depends on the brief and intent of the shot. Maybe you had some thoughts as well.
Yeah, I think I suppose it's it really depends on the type of shot you're doing, like or if you're doing a cycle or something like that. It's a really big question, really. But I suppose in terms of just constraining yourself, it's about I suppose like in terms of management of your time, and also management of the people that you're working with. It's about trying to work out which way you go. Like, and that's the thing about like which shirt you wear to the party. So like if it's a really energetic shot, you can get away with a lot of extra details and movements. If it's a more calm shot, you need to sort of just make sure you've got certain poses right. So yeah, it's a hard one to go, but I think essentially you want to do what's right for the shot is really what it comes down to. Do what's right for the sequence, and that's the first thing you should be asking yourself. And that will help you sort of work out where that sort of where that speedometer should be. I think if you lock yourself into physics as well, that will help you not go too far. And if you take things like reference timings, like I didn't mention it too much, but there's things like if I go and look at sort of things like ratios is really important. And it's basically like, so I can go here. I go, how many frames did the right paw stay on the ground? So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So about eight frames. How many frames did it spend in the air? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13 frames. So that's a ratio that you can plug into your animation. And so that's how I use reference. I'll literally extract those timings to sort of make myself it physically in the real world. And if it's certain things like if I want, like say I've got this Y curve over here, I want something running really, really quickly, or say so walking, but then slowing down. I can use this series of oscillations to speed up or slow down things. So maybe it gets to a certain point here, and then slows down there. And so now I've got this thing where it's like boom, 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 boom. And so suddenly I've got like my tempo worked out, and that's just basically a basic form of keeping yourself in check with the real world, I guess. Hope that helps answer the question. That is a big one, and we can probably do a whole video on that.
Yeah. No, cheers for that. Do you ever change your pivots at all?
Yeah, all the time. And this is the thing about animating in world space, is that that's what you're doing. Like your chest is it can be separated from your hips, for instance, and now you're pivoting from the chest or down here, or you can use that world space tool that I was showing you before, where basically this used to be my pivot over here, and now it's the average space between the two objects here. So and that's why baking is super important. You need to be able to be free with your animation and just bake away and just not care about the fact that now you've got lots of keys everywhere. You can also use these tools to bake on 4s or 1s or whatever, 10s or whatever you want, and that will help you better bake. So, but yeah, changing pivots is super, super important. But like I said, I think the most important thing is making sure that you know whether your center of gravity is, and that's kept in control, and you're not moving the controls too far away from that pivot, unless you're working into world space. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And I told you this question would come up, but David's asking about how you approach animating like dragons and mythical large creatures, where you can't find a reference for.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like the thing is, like, most fantasy creatures are, like I said before, have a common creature that they're made up of. Like a dragon's kind of a bat, and there's also like a lizard kind of nature in there as well. And so you've got to sort of draw on those things. But in terms of getting the timing right, I think that what it comes down to is just a lot of practice and sort of. For me, it's about finding physical kind of things that represent what I'm trying to do in the scene. That could be reference, or it could just be literally physics. And for other people, it's I think like Jason Snowman, one of the best creature animators out there, and he you can tell when he's talking, he's just like he's thinking this monster is literally going through his head, and he's playing the music in his head of this raw big monster coming out. So it's about sort of literally helping yourself sort of be creative and do that, because we don't know what they are, but we don't know how they exactly moved. And like say dinosaurs, we can look at bones and try to work out how they move. We don't really know because we don't have reference, so it's all an interpretation of it out there. So I think it's generally, if you want something heavy, you start slow, you end fast with a hit, but it has to take a long time to speed up, and then it can stop really quickly, but all that energy's got to go somewhere, and got to echo out in your animation. So it's super, super important thing to think about really when you're doing this, just how all this energy flows. And I think Eddie and I were talking about this the other day, is this fact that like just literally energy flows. You just got to remember, like, if something's going this way, what's going to happen to it? If something hits it, and if it's a heavy enough object, will this object bounce off it? Will it absorb much? And what will it do to its trajectory? So try to work out that kind of stuff, and just sort of just constantly think in a physical sense. And I think one of the best advice I can give is that don't focus on the creature as a whole. Just focus on on its core. Don't like the way that the wings are flapping, all the poses and everything like that. It's going to really sort of bog you down to think about all those things at once. It's like people want to draw this perfect pose rather than understanding the heart of what's coming from that movement, that creature. And I think it's a really important thing, is just focusing on the gravity rather than pose. I'm a very much a motion-based animator. I don't mind that my work looks ugly for 90% of the time I work for it, because I know that if I build it up from the base, I can just keep tweaking it and keep touching it up to basically get it to be nice and you know, like beautiful, I guess, but it doesn't have the walls in it that I think that, say, pose to pose kind of generates. Obviously, if you do pose to pose, I think it you can sort of bake out things to world, and you can smooth things out. So not to say it's bad, I just think it's a bit slow at the beginning.
Yeah. I always give the example of like a semi-trailer or a giant cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the amount of time it takes to speed up, and then when it's at full speed, the only way to really for them to stop is like if, you know, the giant cruise ship hits the shore and it just crashes up, but that's it's still gonna like kind of crash, and it's gonna, the energy is gonna carry through and slide, so it's not just gonna hit a wall and stop. So I always try and get people to think of spacing and weight like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And all your, like I was saying with the curves, your curves will show you that information very quickly. Like the way that we're looking at the acceleration curve when it takes off, that's the information that you need to have like literally hard coded into your animation. You know, and what I do quite a lot as well, let's say for that ship example, say the ship was coming on and it looked a little weird to me, I would bake a world space locator onto that object just to see what the core mass is doing. And I can go in there and I can say, there's this big wobble of a Y curve happening at some point. Why did it do that? Why is the Y suddenly like jarring up like that? And it's like, if you get rid of that and you literally go through like ironing out those details, you can kind of fix that stuff. And so I can see if I can find like a curve in here. You can see like this curve I've got is quite slow. It doesn't have a big pop as it goes up. So there's something going on there. But maybe if I had the curve like this, and then it pops up in the air, this will give a better result. So I think about just sort of basically analyzing your curves to give you kind of hints of what's going on. And that's the same thing I talked about with that jump as well. It's just finding those walls and finding sort of things that wouldn't happen in real life. It's really important. You know, like if there was like, for some reason there is a wobble in this curve like that, for some reason the whole thing just wobbled in the middle of midair. It doesn't make sense. So you've got to like iron that stuff out, and it's super easy just to kind of to open up, you know, the curve editor, bake a locator, and look at your curves like that.
Yeah, totally agree. Let's see. And have you ever worked on a bad rig? And if so, how have you produced good animation from a bad rig? Or maybe a good rig?
Yeah, well, so sorry, what was that last bit?
Oh, yeah, it's how do you produce good results or good animation from a...
Yeah, so I think I had there were some tears. There were some tears. That's how you get through. You cry. You cry a little. You cry
Try
a
it
lot.
out and push through.
Yeah. So I worked on John Carter of Mars. Where is it? Somewhere here. There it is. This Wooler character had 10 legs, and there were like there's three on each side, and then there's 4 in the middle. And that was the slowest rig I've ever used in my life. And I had a lot of troubles with it. My computer was crashing as well when I was using it. So I spent 3 months on, like, I think one of my first shots was like 50 frames. It was about 8 years ago. I had a terrible time, absolutely terrible time. And then I opened up a scene. This is something I actually forgot to mention, is that I think opening up other people's scenes is the best thing you can do, because you can see how other people animate. And basically there's this guy called Avisi Avati, who's he's probably the best creature animator in the world. He's absolutely insane. His work is beautiful. And I opened up his shot, and I saw this character that I was having such trouble with. And I literally opened up the increment versions as well. Like he had 10 versions there, and then the 10th version was beautiful animation. And it was kind of amazing, because he looks like he's very pose based, but he was moving every control which way and that, like completely ripping everything all over the place, and then setting poses where he wants. So in his mind, I think he was very much like a physical based person, and he didn't need a fast rig to help. And so I kind of want to talk to him about it one day to find out how he did that, how he made it work for him working such a slow rig. The way that I got around it, and I think this is a really important thing, is back to setup, is that I literally got a box and started moving this character around in a clean version of Maya, just so I could get my timing down, just the way it worked. And things like I went into the rig and I went, oh, there's this leg, this leg, this leg, and there's all this stuff, and there's all this model, there's a high res in there. I just went in there and I opened it up, and I didn't do this to the production rig, but I copied it. I went and deleted everything that would look like it was slow and didn't break the rig when it was done. And eventually I got this rig that was running close to real time. I was like, yes, thank God, because this rig literally ran at 2 frames a second. It was the slowest rig I've ever used, and it wasn't even with the facial shapes on it, which ran at like 0.2 frames per second. And anyway, so that was a super important thing of just basically opening up someone's scene, finding out how they did it, and then making that choice to go rogue and make your own rig. Eventually, the rigger ended up sitting next to me, and I showed him the rig that we're working with, and he was like, oh my God, like, how are you working with that? And I said, yes, and like almost tears coming down my eyes. And he ended up fixing it up and giving me a new version of the rig which ran real time, which was fantastic. And that was lucky. But since then, I don't even care anymore. I just make sure I'm fast animating straight away. If the rig is too slow, get it out of your scene and make your own. And I'm not a rigger, by the way. It's literally just get a box, put a pivot where the character's neck and the full body is, and start working that stuff out. And then build yourself up from there. And yeah, that's another thing we could go into a lot more. But essentially, a good rig is good if it's stable and doesn't crash. And stable meaning that when you move joints, controls around, it does predictable things. But I would avoid things like, just to be fast, avoid any set-driven controls like toe roll buttons. Are really, really misleading, and they will break your animation. And it's these guys, because what happens when I rotate this guy forward, suddenly the pivot of this control is back here, and I've lost that connection between these two objects, this arm, I guess, and this pivot. So basically, got to make decisions to help you animate as quickly as possible, and that's one of them. And it's basically just working with just straight transforms and straight rotations. And so when you're looking at your curve editor, this is all it is, and this is how animation is controlled. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Kind of went a little bit of a tangent there, but
it's all it all has credibility, and that triangle tool that you use for the CAG and the balance.
Yep.
Is that something you made up, or is that something?
Yeah. Like I think any rig would be able to make this in 2 seconds, but like I did this ultra quick, which was I can show you just like I can go. Well, let's just make a box. Let's make it squish down like that. I took the two ends and made them a triangle like that, and then I got the good old cluster, which is in the deform menu in here. Just made a few of them to this guy there, and so now let's see if we can see it all. So these clusters. And there's definitely smarter ways to do this stuff, and I'm just showing you how our way. But basically, you can see this triangle is now being controlled by those clusters. And what I can do is I can constrain those clusters to their feet, say, for instance. So like for here, I'll just go, should have got a shortcut for this. So go through and just basically get this foot, get this cluster, apply, and then to the other guy. And like this is, I've just done this to the guy jumping in the air. But what I would do next is I'll get the full body control up here, or the whatever your center of gravity control that you've got, and then you can do something like basically constrain it to this box, and then basically just transfer it down, like lower down, so that you can see where generally that box is. And it works well for a setup like this, but I would prefer to have something like I set up here, which moves around. It generally always stays in the right spot. But yeah, it's super easy setup. So essentially, it's just clusters and some constraining to some objects. That's it. Not technical at all.
Yeah. No, that's great. And do you have any advice for animating tails? Because I know tails, I guess when I tell my students, like, when you're looking at a reference, the tail is there to obviously balance, the cat as it's moving. But it looks kind of crazy in a reference. So if you directly copy it, it's kind of random. So I like to add a bit more overlap and drag in it.
Absolutely. And you can see, like, I was thinking about this before, which has got this walk cycle here. Just get this into... so tails are kind of this, I feel like it's the dark arts of tails, right? Because, like, in the reference, they look cool and they're crazy. And then with, sorry, there's a bit of noise. Hey, Z. And so then, so what we want to do is, like, I do this a bit, is that I try to avoid seeing them, to be honest, because I find that the way they render kind of gross sometimes. And so unless you've got a really nice render, I try to just not make them too intrusive into the shot. The more you do with them, they kind of take attention, and sometimes depending on where they're rendered, they're going to take the wrong kind of attention. But in terms of workflow with them, I think what I do is so you can see I don't even, like the gallop, I didn't even bother doing the tail. Something I do at the very, very end, just sort of hide. And essentially what we want to do is work from the base down. I don't even think about the tip at all, because the tip is kind of connected to the hips, and it's the part where all of the muscles are going to be. So it's going to be quite rigid around there. And then basically I do my first pass with either the first two controls like that, and I do them at the same time. And then I worry about, like, down the length. I won't actually go through and literally pose a tail out, because, like I said, with FK rotations, is you get very you really start to bump into walls. Yeah, so that's one thing. One approach anyway, but that's why I use world space rotations as well, is to sort of to avoid those walls essentially. But yeah, like, in terms of ugly tails, it's a mixed bag. Like, depending on what shot and what type of thing you're going to do, like I'd very, very cautiously choose how you're going to represent it. Like, there's the way you see a cat or a lion with a tail sticking up in the air and, like, wiggling around. It looks crazy. You do that in animation, if you don't get it right, it just looks bad. It looks terrible. So you just got to work it out. The one thing I want to emphasize, though, is you don't want to make it like a ribbon. Don't just do the animator pass on it, where you're just making it kind of like a noodle. Just try to avoid that. Keep them as solid as possible, and and that will help you out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's a question here. How do you approach the tiger? By using too much cog, or do you do everything or the rest of the control like the cog? Hold on, let me decipher this. I think what he's asking is, do you use, like, a main control and then there's a hips and a chest to animate, and then break it up? The hips and the chest, I think.
Yeah, again, it depends which kind of shot I'm doing, but, like, if I'm sort of doing a freeform kind of terrain kind of covering shot, where he's sort of galloping, trotting, or getting around, like say something like that, I try to do as much as I can in the cog, and to really sort of play it up. And, like I said, like, use as much physics and try to get rid of all the walls and try to get the banking sorted out. And then what I'll do is I start to sort of introduce those oscillations I was talking about, that I can basically look at basically the oscillation of that Y hip going up and down, and I can program that into my hips. And basically what I do is just sort of feel out how far the distance he's traveling, and then how far those Y curves need to be. So, like, sometimes, like, I'll go, oh, I've got 4 in there, maybe I need 3, or I need, like, a little hop in here. And you can start just really literally just playing by putting in those oscillations. And yeah, it's a super quick way of blocking something out. And because you've started with that base of that Y curve, that Y, when the Y comes up and goes down, it means that foot's got to contact the ground. And I think I talk about in my blog, the reason why I do go into world space quite a lot is because if I'm going up and down terrain, I'm going to lose which direction's up very, very quickly. So yeah, super important thing to kind of consider. But honestly, it's I think with freeform, a lot of it is, when it comes down to it, is really just a lot of practice and being you know, familiar with your rig, familiar with your character, and then applying certain rules. But say if it's a creature, say it's like a big, what do you call it, like a big troll or something like that, that's a humanoid, it makes everything a lot simpler compared to, say, a quad, because it's just really just one up and down. And so if you build that into your master control, as in your cog or whatever, you can actually get those up and downs in there kind of initially, and work it out that way. And if once you get the legs in and they're stretching too much, you can do two things. You can either like get that Y curve and squish it back down, so then he's going to go up and down a little bit faster, or you do things like yeah, basically just work it into I've lost my train of thought there, but essentially it's, you've got to get that Y curve. It will help you lay out where your feet need to go. Oh, that's right. I was going to say, like, if you don't want to do steps, you can introduce a hop. So literally the thing jumps a little bit higher. That Y curve goes a bit higher. So then instead of like being dum dum dum, he goes whoa, and comes up and down. So it kind of immediately helps you sort of come up with ideas just by plugging in that Y curve. So that's the main thing. Just work on the cog and then the Y curve of your creatures to start yourself out. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And do you mess with like rotation orders?
Yeah.
Early on or halfway through? Because you said you've done a lot of rolling shots, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like rotation orders are probably one of the most important things that I should have spoken about, but it's essentially you've got to pick what one's right for you. But you can use tools like this Morgan Loomis animation tools that change the rotation order. So let's just open that up, and basically it gives you do a get tips for selection, and it says that I'm totally fine, and that's because my rig has been set up properly, and I've got my rotation order set to X, Z, Y. That's a really good rotation order because it means that when I move the Y curve, all other transform rotations move with it. Whereas if say it was X, Y, Z, you can see that the Z transform doesn't roll with it. So, but say I got myself in a pickle, maybe I was doing a run at first and then it's a rollover, obviously you need two rotation orders. So you can use this tool set to basically go, cool, well, I've done my animation like this, and now when he hits the ground, I want him to roll over. And a good rotation order for that isn't ZXZY or ZXY, which is usually for controlling a creature going over terrain. You can see when I start rolling over, I get gimbal left. So something that's going to be better is something like I presume ZXY, ZYX, or XZY. So I'm just going to convert this by just clicking it, and basically it goes through and adjusts my animation without actually adjusting anything. And you can see that it's giving me a new rotation order here on XYZ. That rotation order looks like it's wrong. So I'm not going to be able to roll over. So let's try ZXY. That looks kind of better. It looks like I've got a kind of an axis there, but doesn't completely work for me. So let's try another one, YXZ. So, oh, here we go. Now I've got like a nice clean rotation. And this is cool. So I can actually use this rotation now as I do my rollover to control that. I eventually, like rollovers, you're going to have to choose which is your least important rotation order, because you're always going to get gimbaled at one point, no matter what. So you just have to consider that into your workflow. But yeah, I use this tool set to be able to change back and forth, like multiple times, and you can do this with multiple different control rigs and stuff like that. But yeah, super useful. The other way I've done things as well is that if I don't want to change my rotation orders, I set up myself with a new setup. So say I've jumped to the right here. I've jumped over like that. My axis is kind of broken. It's gone off to this diagonal thing, but I can use like this curve, this locator, to face it into a new orientation like that. So now my orientation is this way, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake this using the script that I have, this bake script. What I want to do is change my world space, but it's going to be inside this object. And so, see, like, just before I do this, see how my X transform isn't going the direction that I want it to be anymore. It's like my Z as well. It's going up and down. This one's going that way. What I want it to do is really, really straight and follow along. So what I'm going to do is change my pivot. So parent space, sorry. So I click this as my world. Now it's my locator one's going to be my world. And then I'm going to just bake onto whatever's, and then I'll constrain that by default. And then if I go to my locator script now, you can see inside this little folder here, it's got a locator baked to inside here, which is going to control my rig. And now, because I've reoriented that control, this is actually what's controlling the direction of my character, but in terms of my world space. So if I go and move X now, X is perfect because it's aligned with this locator, and Z is now straight up and down. So I can sort of run my character like straight ahead like that, rather than diagonal and having two curves interacting on each other as they go. Anyway, so that's a super quick way to sort of basically stay in control as you're doing things, and like that's a way to not have to change the rotation order of what you're trying to do if you want to keep running in a separate direction or whatever, or if there's another rollover. Yeah, so I hope that's helpful. But yeah, definitely change rotation orders, change world spaces as much as you can to make it simpler. Don't fight against the rig. Don't fight against double transforms and double rotations.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks for that, mate. Well, it's almost 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I think it's probably time to wrap it up. And
yeah, I'll throw you one more question.
Yeah, sure.
There's one, just the best advice received regarding creature animation or animation in general, but also maybe just like tips for, for guys and girls trying to get into the industry or get into film or trying to get to where they want to get to. Just any good general advice there?
Yeah,
as a supervisor, you probably look at a lot of reels as well.
Yeah, exactly. I do, and I think there's I think every supervisor is going to look for something different, and for different shows, there's different kind of things to look for. And so one of them is a reel that shows that you're in control of your animation. I think it's super important, and I think people do a lot of reference tests out there, and that's great. But seeing freeform animation, seeing actually some work that you can tell is not based off reference is super important to do. And in terms of being successful in a studio, it's about having a very wide skill set when you go in. You need to be comfortable with things like hotkeys and little tools that you've learned. That will make you useful, because like when you get in there, you might not be given like the big hero shot straight away. You need to be able to like get in there and use a walk cycle appropriately, and maybe put some like little antics on it. So get good at that. Don't just go straight into reference animation, because it's you're not in control of it. You're pivoting off something, you're basing on something, but you're not 100% in control of it. You've got to have all those tools in mind to be able to be in control. And so, yeah, I think it's just a super important thing for people to develop that kind of sense of animation, and also, like I said before, about understanding how you see animation. And I can give you like what I said before was like I thought I was a terrible animator when I first started, and I was in commercials for close to three years. And I did do some little animations, and like did little cigarette packets falling over, and little weird little bits of fruit rolling around the table and stuff like that. And it was fine. Like the animation's not terrible, but the performance, when I ever tried to do performance thing, it just looks terrible. It looks terrible. And then one day I got an opportunity to do a test on Charlotte's Web for this pig, and like they basically just gave it to me to test because I said I was interested in it, and then suddenly it just all kind of clicked for me. I was like, the physical mechanical world worked for me, and suddenly like I just pretty much took all my general skills that I did with rendering and comping at that time, and just put them in the closet, and that was it. And so I sort of wanted to express that. So when people go into the industry, it's best to have a really open mind what you can do, and then find your strengths, find things you really enjoy, and then sort of really attack those things. And like I said, don't be good at what you don't want to do. It's really important once you get in there and you don't want to do be the person that can do match move or something like that, or can do rotoscoping or something like that. Like, don't learn those skills. Like, they're good to have. It's not, don't learn those skills. That's not the right thing to say. Learn those skills, but try to gravitate towards the things that you're really, really interested in.
Yeah, I always tell my students to build a reel around what you want to animate for, say, the next 20 years of your career.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Then just create a reel based on what you think studios want to see or someone wants to see. It's like, what do you want to do for the next 20 years? So be awesome at that, create it, and then put it out there.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. It really, I think that's the thing. Like, I've got a little card today that says "Enjoy yourself," and that's the things. Like, I want to enjoy this webinar. Like, putting together is kind of a little nerve-wracking sometimes, but then doing like animation is the same. Like, if you're not enjoying what you're doing, and you're too stressed out, you won't be free with what you do. So, yeah, just exactly enjoy yourself. Animation is literally supposed to be fun. It's the silliest job in the world. So enjoy it and enjoy the process of it, I guess, as well. And it's so wide ranging that you can learn so much from it. So yeah, definitely just enjoy it.
I think that's the best piece of advice. Enjoy yourself.
Enjoy yourself. Yeah. Do it.
Thank you for that. That was really amazing. And I hope everyone else enjoyed it too. Thanks for rocking up.
Thanks for hosting, Eddie. It was great.
And it was, I even learnt a lot, so appreciate that. And again, thanks for everyone for attending and all the support.
Yeah. And I do want to just mention thanks for everybody watching. Obviously, you can't hear anybody, but I can see there's a lot of comments coming up, so I'll have a read through those. And I do want to make certain things available, like basically a list of all the things we talked about. So if there's anything that came up that you want to know where I got from or whatever, or how I did it, just put in the comments. And like, might take me a while to get back to you, but I'll try to get back to you, or at least post something that has a lot of the information in there, which would be super cool. Hopefully helpful for everybody.
I'm going to upload these videos in chunks over the next week. Probably in like two halves. So look out for that.
Yeah, it's been a long one.
It's great hanging out again with you. It's been too long. Yeah,
it's been too long. Eddie and I work with each other all over the world, and obviously we're Australian, so eventually just chase each other around a little bit. But it's a good industry, so but I miss you, man. I miss our coffees.
I actually remember Dan working on those Charlotte Webb's tests on the pig. So back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. That was 2005. So yeah. 15 years ago. Crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
Cool, mate. Cheers
cool,
again.
Man.
Yeah, let's catch up soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Eddie.
All right. Cheers. See ya.
Bye.